Hello, Becky Brown.
Hello, Chris. How are you?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Doing fine. Good, good. Looking forward to our conversation.
We are excited to have you here at Seismic Shift. Really are.
Well, thank you. This should be fun.
I'm Chris Chandler. I lead our strategic account sales team in the West. So we work with the good people of Intel, folks at Microsoft, Google, some other folks that you hear from at Seismic Shift. But that's what my team's focused on. How about yourself, Becky?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Becky Brown. I work in the sales and marketing group. So I run a group called the Digital Scale and Insights team. So I've been here at Intel quite a long time. I'm going on my 28th year. So spent almost all my career here. And as it turns out, actually, it's kind of my career sort of come full circle. I started in sales. So I started as a field sales engineer. And I worked out of the Orange County sales office. So I have a soft spot, for all of our sellers. And then over time, I did different kinds of roles. And then in the last 15 years, I've been doing more of marketing on the digital side. And so as it comes kind of full circle, now I'm on the other end, really helping our sellers be as productive and as efficient as possible. And so yeah, it's been a really exciting time, certainly across all the really interesting things happen in digital, in sales, in technology, in data.
Looking forward to hearing about some of that today. So what's your role today?
Yeah, so today I cover a kind of an interesting role. So I'm part of the marketing organization, and I'm responsible for kind of a wide variety of understanding our audiences, translating that work from our audience into how do we engage with them digitally. So all of our digital properties, I own those today across like intel.com as an example, where we're doing a lot of personalization, where we're doing a lot of lead capturing in terms of getting to know our audience a little bit better. And then kind of an underlying piece of that is all the marketing technologies. And so whether it's our content management system or some of the other ways in which we use, a marketing technology stack to reach and engage our audiences. That's also kind of translated into the technologies we use on the sales side. So we've been, increasingly becoming a stronger part of the work we do with our CRM with Salesforce. And then certainly as we've continued to work our way down from a marketing perspective and in digital down the funnel, how that translates into tangible business value and tangible business results into things like pipeline. We've been playing a stronger role on, what does that, integration look like across marketing? And then how do we enable our sellers to be more efficient and effective with the way that, they're engaging with their customers, the way that they're using our sales CRM as a way to track and manage their opportunities, and then really kind of bringing all that together across both marketing and sales.
Yeah, so you've really lived the this sort of digital marketing shift that we talk about a lot, and you've lived it through the lens of Intel. And looking forward to hearing a bit more about Intel as a whole too. Before we do that, I did want to ask you one question here. So one of the themes we have at Seismic Shift is storytelling, right? Start with maybe a story about you. I mean, you don't get to be a vice president in Intel without doing some bold things and taking risks. Do you perhaps have a story that you could share with us where you took big risk and it paid off inside of Intel and helped get you to where you are today?
Back about 10 years ago, I had the opportunity to present out what we call this is the strategic conversation. And that's where you get the opportunity to present to your leadership team on what you think the future of marketing is, or what you think the future of, one of our business units is. Like it's really a really great opportunity. And at that time, I felt really passionate about the ways in which data and technology was going to change the way that marketing was going to show up in the future. And I presented, this big vision of how technology and tools was really going to be the transformation, and we need to get on board. Yeah. And that was a pivotal moment for me and for, at the time, a very small team. In fact, I have some of those people still with me today because we've been on this amazing journey together. And that was really a pivotal moment of taking a chance, and also, for me, realizing that my strength in technology. So I came from an engineering background. I love technology. And in marketing, that was about the time when, if you remember, people were talking about the two different minds working together, the creative minds with the technologists. And that was kind of when the role of a sort of a marketing technologist, or someone that's very, focused on, how we do things more efficiently, was starting to, we were starting to see more of those people. Yeah. And so that was, I think, kind of good timing. I guess you could call it really good luck. Like, I was prepared, and then this amazing opportunity showed up, and it's paid off. I think because the timing was really good. We had the appetite to make some of those changes. And I think, when we're in that same sort of trajectory where we are today. So we've been able to build a really great foundation in terms of, building a lot of that great technology. And now it's, taking that to the next level. And I see, the transformation marketing has gone through in the same way that sales is going through that same transformation. And you've probably, Chris, seen the Lumascape, with the, tens of thousands of applications for marketing. And we now have equally as many of those opportunities to really use in our sales processes. And so I think that's, another sign that both of our businesses, whether it's marketing or in sales, we're going through a lot of change, and we're using, tools, processes differently to really make our business succeed. And I think that, competitive, especially in today's environment, your competitive, your advantage is how do you use your resources? And part of how you use your resources, how do you get the most out of your people? How do you get the most out of your data? How do you get the most out of your technology, and making really smart decisions? And so that's kind of a long answer, Chris, on how, I think, I was at the right time with the right vision that ended up paying off, throughout this journey.
Great story. I love that. Fortune favors the bold. Change, I think, was a word I heard quite a bit in that story. And, a lot's changed in the last 10 years, for sure. I think, if I think back to 10 years ago, the only thing I knew about Intel was perhaps like, if you were going to buy a computer, it better have an Intel Pentium 3 processor in it. And that was that. Could you talk a little bit about, for folks like me who perhaps don't know a lot about Intel?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So yes, we had a great business in the PC. So as you mentioned, Chris, most people do recognize the Intel badge on their laptop or their desktop. We've evolved that. So our data center business, even if you look at about half our business is now coming from the data center. So that's a really strong and important part of our business. We have microprocessors. And then the next big thing is really how do we, bring all these things together? And so, we see this tremendous amount of opportunity, not just around like these point solutions, whether it's a PC or a data center or an IoT device, but it's bringing all these things together and unlocking the value of the connection between all these different devices and the data that it's generating, and integrating and storing. And that's what we see as kind of we're on that third version of our narrative and our story on this explosion and this unleashing of data and this massive opportunity.
How have customer demands changed and buyers changed over that time in those segments as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, adjust would probably be an understatement, Chris, in terms of like, it's been a massive change. Sure. And in the past, we've had, when you sell into a client or a server, those audiences are pretty, they're definitive. You would sell to an OEM would sell to an end customer, or you would sell to an OEM and they would sell to a retailer who would sell to a consumer. So that audience was pretty straightforward. And in the days of just the PCs and servers, it was an IT decision maker. So we knew that audience very well. And then it was a consumer, or it was someone that was a hardware engineer at one of our OEMs. And so those that when I was in sales 20 years ago, that we knew exactly who those people were. There weren't that many of them. They were clearly the decision makers, and that buying cycle was pretty clear. When you've moved to the cloud, like the cloud has opened up so much opportunity, but it's also created a lot more complexity. And so in today's environment, companies are making decisions about where to host their services, who are their service providers they want to bring into their environment, and then how do they architect that in a way that they can manage and integrate. And that means there's new audiences and specific audiences that we weren't touching, or we didn't have a relationship with, say in the past 10 years. And those are, the information architect is really critical, like those people that are making decisions on how do you take all these different solutions and put them together. So we've evolved those different audiences, and the cloud, call it this cloudification, has really changed that. Well, then you take it another step forward and you say with Internet of Things, even with edge computing, these have opened up even more audiences. And so the days of selling to an OEM and then that goes to an end customer, we have a very complex, routes to market, which is you could go from an OEM to an ODM to a managed service provider to a cloud service provider to an ISV to an SI. They're obviously becoming really important, to even in the IoT space, like an OTSI. These are very specialists in the SI business. And then, you work your way down to the end customer. And so there are decision makers throughout that entire routes to market. And so not only do you have, 5 or 6 people in that buying committee at even each one of those different customers, you could have 10 of those within that entire routes to market of people that are influencing that decision. And so the way that we reach those audiences, the way that we, are tracking those conversations, personalizing those conversations, making sure we have the right content, has gotten way more complex than it was, 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, we see a lot of those trends across many of our customers, where the complexity has just exploded.
Yeah.
No longer is it a single buyer. The number of buyers and the complexity of the products and solutions that we're selling has just exploded. And no one single salesperson can really do it all. Could you talk to us a little bit about how you help your salespeople actually do that, right? How do you augment what they're doing, help them do their jobs better, and even connect with buyers, perhaps with in a way that feels human but maybe isn't delivered by a human? Like, what are some of those things that you've put in place to really drive and support your salespeople in this new selling?
Yeah. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, would I be doing sales enablement and seller productivity work? I would have said, no, definitely not. I want to focus on how we create opportunities and how we pass those to sellers, and they're going to, close those opportunities. But what we found was we can't be successful doing that work if our sellers aren't efficient and productive. Mm-hmm. And so we have been, constantly going through this notion of removing roadblocks, because we know that, in today's environment, and this was, certainly before COVID, but we're not doing face-to-face interactions as much. I mean, like, think about our interactions, Chris, that we've done a lot of the work that we've done together, not just because we were in COVID, but even before that, because we started this journey, is we've been doing it over the phone, or we've had some face-to-face interactions, but we don't need those as much because we're, handling problems and we're working through things, remotely. And, to your point, there is this, our sellers and our audiences have told us that they're okay knowing that there doesn't necessarily need to be a human behind what's serving them, but it needs to feel like a human, or it's been humanized, if you will. And that's, a great example are like chatbots. I mean, in the beginning, they were so annoying and it's like, this is terrible. And now actually, I would rather do a quick chatbot, because I'm pretty sure versus waiting online or getting somebody that's not going to have my answers. That's really frustrating. And we're also embracing that. And then, the third one is about those easy, enjoyable, and effortless experiences that we're creating. And that's for our customers. But the big thing that we've learned in the last 2 years is to be able to do this in terms of, engaging with our audiences. We have to treat our sellers just like our customers. And we said, okay, we're going to really get more intimate. We're going to go sit down with our sellers. We're going to have some honest conversations about why this isn't working. And this was a very pivotal moment that we had, where we sat down with them for a full day. So we brought in groups, anyone that was a problem solver that was going to come to the table to have a customer first and a field first mindset. We brought them to the table, and we created different work streams and assigned owners and said, we are going to focus on our sellers, removing roadblocks. And then we did a very thorough seller journey mapping. I mean, when I say thorough, we documented, I think, hundreds of different, workflows that they had. And within each of those different stages, we walk through their entire pipeline stage, from the time they open an opportunity to the time that it gets closed. And what are the tools they need? What are the processes that they need? And then what are their pain points? And we went across this and detailed this out, with this selling group. Yeah. And as a result of that selling group, we created this SPAN, this Field Advisory Network. That's where we got introduced to you. So if, I would have never predicted that we would be running a beautiful, amazing curation for our sellers with a company like yourself. But when we went through the journey with our sellers, what's the one big problem they have? They can't find information, and they can't deliver information to their customers, and they're spending a day a week figuring it out. Like, that's a day a week they need to be selling. Like, that's time that they need with this massive, buying committee that we need to be targeting. How can we possibly be making this easy for them when they can't even find the information they need to be able to communicate and to start those conversations with customers? And that's where this has been and is going to be probably the most transformational and change that we're going to be driving really between our marketing and selling organization. And so we are, couldn't be more thrilled with, where we are. This might be a nice opportunity, for us to roll the video.
Intel is excited to announce the implementation of Seismic, a powerful sales enablement provider that bridges the gap between sales and marketing by delivering all the content and context you need through a single integrated platform. Your new search engine makes finding the best content a seamless experience. The search bar has contextual suggestions and a streamlined filter system to narrow down exactly what you're looking for. Another way we're making your life easier is with Seismic's predictive content engine in Salesforce. Inside every opportunity, you'll see content recommendations relevant to the client and current sales stage to help you move the deal forward. No more hunting down content. The best content comes to you right inside Salesforce. With the new freestyle functionality, it's easier than ever to personalize presentations within Salesforce. You can now add slides from multiple presentations in your library and organize the slides in a way that makes the most sense to your buyer's unique needs. Once you're finished, it's easy to live send right from Salesforce or Outlook. LiveSend allows you to securely deliver content and receive valuable information on your customers' content consumption. You'll know exactly when a recipient opens your content and how much time they spent on each page. LiveSend is a game changer, and both sellers and buyers love it. From wherever you are, you'll have access to the best content, tools, and insight you need to create personalized stories for each client and prospect at the right time, every time.
Fantastic. Great video. Becky, we're really excited to be working together. We too expect big things. It is certainly time for us to roll up our sleeves and get the work done. I really love some of the things that you shared with us about what you learned from your salespeople, what you've learned over the years. I guess as we wrap up, perhaps one or two of the biggest lessons that you've learned personally throughout this journey.
I think the biggest lessons I've learned is that gosh, there's so many, but I think one is in this, especially when it comes to sales and marketing, you got to roll up your sleeves and you got to get into the details, and you've got to understand, the people process, technology, and you have to go through kind of each of those and determine like how's this all going to come together.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah. Thank you. It was a really great conversation. Thanks, Chris. Can't wait. We're super excited here for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us at Seismic Shift. We really appreciate it.
You bet.
As a Seattleite, the two people that I would most want to sit next to on an airplane are Kurt Cobain, because he was an amazing musician, and I didn't get to see him live in concert, and I'm still kicking myself for it, and Bill Gates, who is an amazing visionary and technologist.
Well, I'm a big baseball fan, so I'd love to sit next to a couple of baseball players. Probably Ted Williams and also Babe Ruth. I think that's someone who is a big mythic figure in baseball. I don't know a lot about, but would love to get to know him on a flight.
I want to sit in between Donald Trump and Boris Johnson. Just to understand what goes through their heads, to understand how two human beings can be so different yet so similar in the way in which they operate, and to see if they could do something different, what would they do and how would they do that?
My dad. I'd like to have one last conversation with him and just literally freak him out with all the technology that's available today.
The Rock and Ella Fitzgerald, because I think that they would be fascinating for sure, but I think they're both really funny people. I kind of think Ella's funny. I mean, I don't have any proof, and I'm a big fan of both.
For sure, Albert Einstein, because I just think he's a fascinating human, super smart, but also very interesting take on the world. And I don't know, maybe a musician, like a super cool jazz musician. I can't think of anybody, Thelonious Monk, or like somebody that's like the super dynamic personality musically and a super dynamic personality in like everything mathematical and physics. That's my answer. It'd be a very interesting flight.
Anthony Fauci and Sir Paul McCartney.
Tom Brady and Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Reason being, they are both just absolute powerhouses, and I really appreciate what they stand for, their perseverance, and I just think it would be such an interesting conversation between the two of them for so many different reasons.
Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama. I think that they have both been great role models, and since I have a little girl, I would love to be able to share that conversation with her.
The two people I'd want to sit next to on a flight are probably Leonardo DiCaprio and Bradley Cooper, just because they probably smell really good.
My first choice would be Casper the Ghost, because he wouldn't take up any room. I could, put my hand through him, have my right arm bar. And then my second would probably be James Baldwin. He'd be a great travel companion, probably has a lot of great stories for the flight. So those are my two there.
Jimi Hendrix and Freddie Mercury. That would be awesome.